Hello, everyone, and welcome to Silent Podcast, where we are anything but silent. My name is Sarah Yell, and today I have a very special guest. I have Jordan Kalish with me. How are you doing?
Doing great. How you doing, Sarah?
Good. And you may think that I'm the Big Brother Canada expert, but Jordan Kalish, if you want to know Big Brother Canada, you talk to Jordan Kalish because he knows everything, I'm sure.
If there's two things I know, it's Big Brother and the country of Canada, a country that I have been to more than 3 times, and a show that I have watched exactly 1 season of, but never Big Brother Canada. I've just watched Big Brother US.
Yeah,
and it was a bad season.
Oh, which one?
BB19.
Oh, wow. At least it's memorable. I don't know what it was a bad season, but at least it's memorable for being a bad season.
Yeah, that's true. I think that's what it's memorable. Yeah, it's memorable literally for being a bad season. And I really didn't like too many of the people that were on it. I like Kevin. He was cool.
Kevin, yeah. How's he doing? I think he's doing okay.
I met him once. He came to New York City once.
That's fun though. But I don't know. Today we're going to talk about Big Brother Canada a bit, and Jordan doesn't really know much about Big Brother Canada. So I think we're also going to talk about Survivor, because I'm sure everyone heard yesterday there was the big announcement.
Yes, Jeff Probst tweeted out a video where he had long white hair, like Albus Dumbledore, and he told us that Survivor is going to be back. Now, if you're in the know, if you look into Inside Survivor, we knew that they were in Fiji already. We knew that they were starting filming on season 41 and then 42, which is going to be, I guess, later spring, early summer, whatever. But I am so excited to be getting new seasons of Survivor. It's been too long. It's been over a year since Winners of War premiered. So that is my favorite show. It's the show that got me into it's sort of the show that got me into podcasting. I was a guest a couple times on the Celebrity Apprentice podcast on RAJP, where that show sort of went off the rails. But Survivor has I think stayed consistently good with a couple hiccups here and there, some big hiccups, some smaller hiccups, but I love the show and I'm excited to have it back.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot new viewership because of Netflix. I think there's a lot of new Survivor fans. I'll be excited for a new show, and I think it's going to be fresh meat, right? As far as
all new players from what I've heard from 41 and 42, which I'm really happy about, because as much as I like a returner season, I always like when you have a favorite player and they bring that person back. It's always exciting to see how they're going to do. I think it's I'm of the opinion that the next 4 or 5 seasons at least should be new player seasons. Get some new blood in there. Then the next time you do an all-star season, you could have a real all-stars cast, which of course we had for Winners at War. But I think some of the returning seasons before that, there were some questionable casting choices. It's because they did them too close together.
Yeah. Do you think that all-stars or returners have an advantage on returner seasons if it's kind of a mix?
If it's a mix, oh, absolutely. I mean, look at the seasons that they've done. I mean, anytime they've done a fans versus favorites, yes, season 16 is one of the best seasons ever. But in terms of the theme, is it really fair to the new players that don't know what they're doing? Not really, especially in these fans versus favorite seasons. They tend not to really cast fans. They cast, a lot of them have been recruits on both Karamo and fans versus favorites. So I think when you have people that are used to not just playing the game, but being out there with the cameras, being in the elements, I think it's a huge advantage. And if they're going to do a full returner season, I'd rather them do a full season of returners. None of these one veteran per tribe or half a tribe of returning players. Give us a full all-star season.
But then I think when it's a full all-star season, the only problem is there's a chance of some of your favorites becoming least favorites very quickly.
It happens.
I feel like when they're returners, they tend to still get the good at it. But
that's true. I mean, it could happen. There have been people who I really liked their first time out, and I didn't like them as much their second time. But then there's the reverse, where I think someone like Officer Sarah, for example. I mean, I thought she was fine her first season. I mean, clearly she made a big mistake at the merge, which is part of the reason that she was the boot there. But she comes back, plays one of the best games ever in her second season. And while she's not my favorite character ever on Survivor, she completely turned around her legacy in terms of being a game player.
Yeah, it's interesting. So as a Survivor expert, I have 2 questions about the upcoming season. I was hoping you could help me answer. So one, do you think that kids will be allowed at the family day?
My guess is that I kind of think there's not going to be a Love One season on either of these 2 seasons. I'd be surprised because, you're quarantining the whole cast, the whole crew going to Fiji. I mean, they have to, I believe the protocol is that, you take a test when you go to Fiji, you take a test when you get to Fiji, you have to quarantine for, I'm not sure exactly how long, but you get tested again before going out there. Bringing people in from the outside, it seems reckless. I bet my guess, maybe they'll go old school, like a Survivor Australian Outback type thing where they're able to communicate virtually. I think it'll be better. It was like on AIM, I think, in Survivor Australian Outback, where like Keith Bamey like proposed to his girlfriend, typing to her, and I think it'll be probably a video call. But I can't imagine the loved ones coming out. I kind of think that would be a reckless decision. So
kids are coming then, I'm assuming, if it's a video chat.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be on the chat. I think if it's on the video chat, you could probably have as many people as you could fit in the room. I
know that was a hot debate during Winners of War. I think that was even in some contracts as a requirement for people coming on. I
was fine with that.
Okay, and also my other hot Survivor topic I was curious about is, do you think the breadfruit has grown back?
I hope so, because I don't know what they're going to eat if there's no breadfruit. If they can't get the breadfruit, they're just going to be living on rice the whole time. We're going to have a lot of unhappy survivors.
Yes, because those are my favorite episode segments, because I heard the low-hanging breadfruit was gone for the Winners at War. That's why they had to bring out the ladders. And so now I'm assuming the upper breadfruit's gone as well. I'm a little concerned for them.
I think it's grown back. I mean, look, I don't know anything about how breadfruit grows. I can imagine that, it's like any seeds, baby. When they're planted, they grow, and I think the breadfruit will be very plentiful for season 41, but not for 42, because all the 41 people are going to eat the breadfruit. There won't be any left. But the good thing is, maybe we'll get like a Tony Vlachos type character who's going to build a ladder, which is one of the best scenes in Winners at War. So you never know.
Okay, the seeds baby thing. I know that is an inside joke. I've seen the merch. I do not know the origin story.
So, once upon a time, very much like this, I was on StreamYard because I was on my friend Puya's Twitch stream, Puyaism, on Twitch. Puya. Yeah, and we were ranking bagels. It was a tier list Tuesday. We were ranking bagels, and of course, the only bagel at my top tier was the Everything Bagel, because it's the perfect bagel. No other bagel compares. This is a fact. This is not my opinion. And I love all the bagels, but like the other bagels were like, second tier, third tier, fourth tier. Then there were some that I don't like so much in the fifth tier. So anyway, I do this stream, and it comes out on the stream that I do a really weird thing, which is when I get a bag, a full, a dozen or 2 dozen Everything Bagels, I take the seeds at the bottom of the bag, I put them in a Tupperware, because sometimes you get an Everything Bagel that's underseeded, and it makes me mad because it's supposed to be an Everything Bagel and it doesn't have enough seeds. So what I do is I take the seeds out of the Tupperware, I sprinkle them on the cream cheese, and I have a nice Everything Bagel with enough seeds. There's nothing wrong with that. It's weird, but it's practical. Anyway,
have you sued Trader Joe's yet for stealing your Everything Bagel seasoning recipe?
I invented it.
You really did. I think
I started doing this before. I agree. I started doing this before Trader Joe's, and they do owe me. I think they I don't know if they are spying on me. I don't know what the deal is, but they do owe me money. Litigation is pending. But anyway, it came up on Rob and Akiva Need a Podcast that I do this weird thing, and I agree it's weird. It makes sense, but it's not common. Not everyone is like me, Sarah. I'm one of a kind. Okay, so yeah, I do this thing, and then since it was brought up on Renap, I made a video where I was making my bagel in the morning, beautifully toasted bagel. I'm a very good bagel toaster. I always get it perfectly toasted, not like a little charred, but not too much.
Weird brag.
Yeah. But it's a good trait. But anyway, at the end of the video, I say that, look, at the bottom of this bagel, not enough seeds, but it doesn't matter. I have the solution.
The bottom of the bagel? You need seeds on the bottom?
Well, the seeds are on the outside of the bagel.
Oh, okay.
I sprinkle them on the cream cheese, and then I said, seeds, baby. It went viral. Millions and millions of viewers, and now I'm on a T-shirt.
That's exciting.
A mug, a T-shirt, a sweatshirt.
There's worse catchphrases in the world. So.
Oh, there's way worse catchphrases.
But okay. Well, if you'd like, we can move on. I did prepare a PowerPoint where I know this is a BB Cam podcast. We've been talking about Survivor, but they're in the same universe. They're kind of related.
It's the same show. One's inside and in Canada, the other's outside in Fiji, but it's like the same thing. I've never watched BB. I watched like the first second half of the first episode of BB Canada. They seem like cool people. So let's see what's going on with this PowerPoint.
Yeah, well, Okay, we're going to share screen to my. Okay.
It's gonna be like a TED Talk.
Yes, it's exactly like a TED Talk. No, not really. I just planned activities.
BB Hangout activities.
Yes, and I don't start it because I guess I think I could break it big today, but I don't really feel like it. Okay. What Big Brother or Survivor? What show do you think the social game matters more?
I mean, again, I have way more experience watching Survivor. The social game is absolutely vital. I mean, first of all, in both of these games, you have to get to the end and you have to get votes from a jury where if they hate you, no matter what else you've done, they're not going to vote for you because they're not going to award $1 million to someone they hate. I've also always said that the social game and strategic game shouldn't necessarily be listed as two different things. And the reason I say this, you can have all the great strategies in the world. I think that strategy on, it's gone now. I think strategy on Big Brother is potentially a little bit more intricate than strategy on Survivor just because of the way you have an HOH who makes the nominations and the person who makes the nominations isn't actually voting. So there's strategy in that. There's strategy in, the veto being used or not used. I think there's more that goes into Big Brother strategically. But in terms of in both shows, you need to have social bonds with people to build up the capital in order to make any of your strategies go through. Survivor's pretty simple strategy. You just need a majority vote or a plurality vote on a player. But you're never going to get any of your moves to work if people don't like you or trust you. So I think that the social game is vital because you could have the greatest strategic mind in the world, but if nobody likes or respects you, you're never going to have any success with your strategic your plans. They're never going to be put into place.
Mm-hmm. And do you think the time of the game makes a difference? Because Big Brother is so long. There could be players who get eliminated that probably aren't best for people's games, but it's just like they're like, I cannot spend 60 days in a house with this person anymore. And then also with Big Brother in regards to time, if you make a bad comment to someone and irritate them, you have quite a few days to kind of mend that relationship. When in Survivor, I don't know if you have the time.
No, I mean, if you there's at most 3 days between one tribal council and the next, and as you get further in the game, it's less and less time. You'll have the last couple of days of the game, there's going to be a tribal every single day. So yeah, I really think and again, I don't know if we're saying that the strategic game is more important in either show, because you're right. Mm-hmm. In Survivor, you say something wrong the day of tribal council or even the day before tribal council, you might not have enough time to mend that relationship. In Big Brother, it could just sit there and fester, and you can't really get away from people because you're all in an enclosed space. Survivor, you could walk into the woods, you could go in the water, you could walk down the beach. I think being inside and being cooped up, and I'm sure people who are living with others during quarantine, which I'm not, luckily I live in an apartment by myself. I'm sure this comes into play in situations where you're locked in an apartment with people because there's a pandemic. So I really think I can't say that it's more important in either of them because I think it's the most vital thing in both games.
Mm-hmm. What about competitions? What kind of competitions do you find more compelling? Because Big Brother gets a little weird with their comps. They have some weird themes. Sometimes they're very squirrel themed.
Here's the thing.
But I think they're more well-rounded than Survivor, though.
Potentially more well-rounded. I mean, there's a lot of challenges. Survivor sometimes gets criticized for the fact that a lot of them are strength-based or speed-based, but you get a lot of endurance challenges in Survivor. You get puzzles. You get, things where you have to, sometimes it's just like decision-making where you during the tribal challenges, especially like who you put in each spot. I really don't like the comps in Big Brother for the most part. I think they're very kitschy. I think Survivor are a lot more fun to watch. They look like they look like they're more fun to do. And and there's the challenges in Survivor. It's definitely not my favorite part of the show. I'm watching it more for the camp life and for the strategy and for the tribal councils and like the confessionals and basically everything else before the challenges. But I do think that the challenges are really cool on Survivor. You could just do bigger stuff because you're outside. You have more space. So even though the Big Brother ones, maybe they are a little bit more well-rounded. I don't really have so much experience watching so many of them, but I have seen them before.
There's a lot of luck-based ones where it's literally just like dropping a ball and hoping it lands in the right place.
Yeah, which honestly, is that the worst thing in the world? No, because if you have it might be more likely where you get an HOH who's on the wrong side of the numbers because they got lucky in a challenge. And honestly, that's probably good for the game. It's good. It's good for the entertainment value of the show. Survivor, if you have like if a group of really athletic people make an alliance, it's sometimes hard to break that because they'll typically control who gets immunity. But it's not always the case. I mean, again, there's puzzles. There's endurance. There's challenges like that Baylor Wilson one where you have to use your feet. So, I mean, there are plenty of challenges that they do on Survivor. A lot of them repeat. I just think they're more fun to watch than the Big Brother challenges.
And I was thinking about the difference in challenges is in Big Brother, I think when you win a challenge, you tend to be more on the offensive. You can put people up or you can take people off for veto and force the HOH to make another choice. But in Survivor, I think all the competition wins are more defensive. Then you don't have to take someone out. Like when you win immunity, you don't really have power. You just can't leave. I
think there's potentially more strategy behind winning or not winning a Big Brother competition. Maybe you don't want to win HOH because you think it would be more valuable to win the next round. Because in Survivor, you could run the table, and people like Mike Holloway and Terry Dietz and Colby have gone challenge after challenge after challenge in a row of winning. On Big Brother, you can't do that because until what is the final 3 and final 4, you can't win 2 in a row, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think it's more strategic when you win those challenges, and even for the veto, maybe people want
you can win every veto though. You just can't win.
Yeah. No. That I know, but I'm saying like, let's say you could win the veto challenge. You might not want to win the veto challenge because maybe if you win it, people expect you to use it, but you actually like the noms the way they are, or the opposite. You might be, if you lose the challenge, even if you could win it, you're not pressured to be in a situation that you might not want to be in the situation where you're using the veto. And in Survivor,
100%. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's strategy too. Like, you don't want to come off as too much of a challenge beast necessarily because you might get voted out early in the merge because of that. But I think in Survivor, there are some situations where you might want to throw a challenge, especially if it's a reward challenge or like the loved ones challenge. Don't win the loved ones challenge. Try to get taken on the loved ones challenge, but don't win it because people are just going to be mad at you. So there is some strategy, but I think there's more strategy that goes into, should I win this Big Brother challenge or should I not win it?
Mm-hmm. That's true. I'm happy you're giving Big Brother a lot of strategic credit because I don't think Big Brother always does get a lot of.
I think Big Brother's a great game, and I mean this isn't an original thought by me, by the way. I've heard this been said on many podcasts before, where Survivor's the better show, but Big Brother is the better game if you're just looking at the rules. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I think it is a very strategic game. I think there's more decisions that need to be made each round because it's not just HOH and vote; it's HOH, veto, vote, and also the nominations are a whole strategy in itself. And the back doors. So I do think it's a really good game. I wish the things that I don't like about it, and we'll get to casting in a second, because I tend to like the people on Survivor a lot more. Mm-hmm. It's the whole aesthetic of Big Brother. I don't love what the house usually looks like. To me, I'd rather watch a season of Survivor, which is obvious. I podcast about it, but I think the disparity in how good Survivor is as a show compared to Big Brother is bigger than the potential game disparity, where some people would argue that Big Brother's the better game. I don't know if it's the better game, but I think there are more decisions that need to be made throughout each round.
Mm-hmm. I was trying to think about who wins Survivor versus Big Brother, though. Like, what show tends to have a more satisfactory winner? And I think Survivor does.
I mean, I can't really speak to that too much. I mean, again, the one season of Big Brother that I watched the entirety of was BB19, where Josh Martinez was, and I wasn't, not that saying like I'm a big Paul fan or anything. He was, I saw why he lost. I couldn't stand Josh Martinez, so I mean, I wasn't satisfied. But I wouldn't have loved that Paul won either. Honestly, I didn't really like anyone on that season, so except for Kevin. Kevin should have won. Kevin got robbed. No, he wasn't good at the game, though.
Third place. Usually the best person gets third.
Was he third? He wasn't third place, though, right? Was he? Wasn't Christmas third place?
Oh, yeah, you might be. Maybe it was fourth. Then.
And she sucked too. but
she's an all-star.
Oh yeah, she's an all-star.
Cringe miss. I've heard that around on the interwebs.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of things. I think the most and look, the way that I do follow what's going on Big Brother, everyone I'm friends with, like, tweeting about Big Brother. I feel like I could follow the whole show just by reading people's tweets. And also, once in a while, I'll watch, like, if a friend of mine is on the update on RHAP, I'll listen. It usually gets me up to date on where the game is. Yeah. So that's always fun to do. Or like Kirsten does, like, talks about it on her stream, and Puya. So, and then like a lot of the podcasters talk about Big Brother. So I'll listen to those once in a while, and I'll read people's tweets. Amon's always good about, like, constantly, tweeting about what's going on in Big Brother. He keeps me updated. So I do see. I forgot what we were talking about, but the winners.
Talking about casting.
No, we were talking about the winners. I think Survivor, for the most part, I think in most seasons there's a pretty satisfying winner. There's been a couple where I don't want to say like that the game is flawed, like a Russell Hantz type thing, but I do think the jury sometimes, and it's just sometimes not my style of player, where they'll pick the person that I'm not rooting for. But I think for the most part we do get a pretty satisfying winner.
Okay. Next thing we have, I think we talked about casting. I would say that Big Brother US needs work, obviously. Big Brother Canada, I think, made a big change, and I think it's, at least with this cast, I think this cast is excellent. I think the players are playing, which is actually one of the hot takes on the next slide, so I'll wait for that. No, we could do a hot take now. We'll just skip to it now. But
it's your PowerPoint. You can do whatever you want.
It's my PowerPoint. I guess my hot take was kind of about gameplay, about whether or not that I don't really care if it's good gameplay, bad gameplay, messy gameplay, as long as they're playing the game. You know?
Yeah.
I think if it was completely good gameplay, it probably wouldn't even be as fulfilling of a season. I think the good gameplay seasons are when there's like a big alliance that just completely swoops the game, and the audience is left kind of annoyed.
Yeah, I would say for Survivor, in terms of the entertainment value, or I think casting and entertainment really go hand in hand also. You don't have to delete either one of them like you did for Strategic Game. But I think with the casting, like, if you have the worst thing that you could get on Survivor, in terms of, like, except for like if you cast like a horrible human being, but like in terms of the entertainment value, is if you cast like one or two people who are really good at the game, and then a bunch of people who have no idea what they're doing. And I think some of the worst seasons of the show have had great gameplay by one player, like a Kim Spradlin. One World is definitely near the bottom of my list. Redemption Island, near the bottom of my list. Boston Rob played an amazing game. It's fun to like look at the moves he made, but it's not really fun to rewatch the season because it was like, a professional athlete playing baseball against a high school team. I think that I'd much rather have potentially not so great gameplay in a funny, entertaining season than great gameplay in a season that's kind of boring because it's one person running the table. Which is why, the best seasons of Survivor are the ones that you have really good gameplay, like a Kagiyan, that are also entertaining. I think, both of Tony's winning seasons, both of Sandra's winning seasons, for example, I think are, and those are two of my favorite players of all time. They're both entertaining and strategic, and so were the other players they were playing with.
So how do you feel if there was a season of all super fans? Because I've heard people say that they think that would be the worst season of all time. Yeah,
I think it depends on if it's all like, Survivor trivia hosts, that would probably be pretty boring. Like if it's like, super fans that are all like in a similar demographic and they all have similar like personality, I think that would be boring. I think if you cast a season where all 20 people knew the show, but they were from different walks of life, and it was like, a good diverse season, and they just happened to all have the fact in common that they were actually fans, I think that would be fine. I just don't think you want a bunch of like nerdy Jordan Kalishes walking around, and that's the season.
Someone wants that season, though.
I would watch it. I would like it because if it's, 20 of me, I automatically win.
Oh, I don't know if you would win, but one of your clones might.
One of my clones would win. I think I would beat the clones.
You wouldn't? I'd be rooting for Jordan Kalish number 4, personally.
He's a good one. He's a good. We're actually we're on Zoom the other day. We have a pregame. Do you not think
that the other Jordans would get jealous that you're like 1.0?
The other ones don't listen to this. We're fine.
Oh, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't.
Oh, by the way, Mark Levy has a question. Kalish and Sarah Yell? Yes, those are the people that are here.
That's my name. Yep. I like that you lost your first name, though. Do people call you Kalish?
Yeah, I would say within the RAJP community, most people call me Kalish. Most of my my students call me either Coach Kalish or Coach K. at camp, the camp that I work at, I'm always Kalish. Really, Jordan is. There are some people within RHAP who call me Jordan, but I would say it's more so Kalish. My friends from high school call me Jordan for the most part. My family.
I go the full name. I think I usually say Jordan Kalish.
Jordan Kalish. I think it's not like your name, which is only 3 syllables. Sariel, which I feel Sariel could almost be a first name on its own.
Oh, I've gotten that before, where people are like, Sariel. I just think that's the most beautiful name because like everyone calls me by
It sounds like French or something. I don't know. I've never spoke French, but Sariel.
I also got the nickname Cereal because people said
Cereal. Oh yeah, it does sound like cereal.
You know, I thought about calling this Big Brother Cereal Time or something, but that's probably just cheesy.
I think Silent Podcast is better.
Well, why is it the Silent Podcast? Not for the big name. Not for the big name. It's Isaiah who started the Silent Podcast, I believe.
Bryce Isaiah.
No.
Other Isaiah.
Yes.
We like all the Isaiahs.
Yeah, but you can explain it. Okay, we'll go to the next one though. Reality. Oh, this is kind of a Survivor topic too. I wish that Survivor had live feeds because live feeds are for me what makes Big Brother special. Is you really get to see the cast and know that it's not being produced if you watch the live feeds.
I don't think it would really. Survivor wouldn't really work with live feeds. They would have to be out on the island for as long as the Big Brother people are in the house. Look, if there were Survivor live feeds, I would watch them. I think the answer is maybe producing more stuff for CBS All Access. And you would have, again, it would be the same thing where like you couldn't go on Twitter during a Survivor season if you didn't watch the feeds because you would get spoiled. Like within a second, you'd have to, block the hashtag and not follow anybody who tweets about the show. I don't think that live feeds would ever work. I think if they ever, what would be really cool. And yes, it would spoil the result of the first challenge, but I don't care. I don't think people would really care that much. What if they live streamed the first challenge of a Survivor season? Or maybe they live stream the first, until there's like a minute or two left in the first challenge. And then we could actually watch the challenge live and we know what the challenge is going to be going in, but it doesn't actually spoil the result of anything. Who cares?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Or I always thought maybe more stuff at Ponderosa because I have seen things about live feeds on Survivor. Like, you really want to see people like going to the bathroom in the ocean? There might be some more promiscuous moments on, maybe not promiscuous, but I'm sure there's more like accidental nudity on an island than there would be in a Big Brother house. Yeah, again, I don't think it needs to be live streamed, but I think if you have just maybe it's just scenes and they do post secret scenes. They post stuff from Ponderosa. You can find a lot of Survivor content that doesn't make the show, but if they did more of that, I hope they never do Edge of Extinction or Redemption Island or any of these ridiculous things where players come back into the game ever again. But hot take.
If they put, I don't think that's a hot take, but if they put more of that, on CBS All Access, and we could just sort of watch that as its own show and it's just more content, or maybe each week they highlight a couple players and you get to learn more about them, but it doesn't make the show. I think that would be good, but I don't think we need live feeds. And honestly, I've spoken to enough people who've been on Survivor where I know that they're really there. Yes, it's edited. The storylines could sometimes be skewed because you're watching an edited show, just like it could be on Big Brother if you don't watch the feeds. But I mean, they're really out there playing the game. It's not fake. So I don't really have an issue. Personalities, you might really like someone on the edit, but then hear some things from other players. We're like, for sure, kind of an awful person. Yeah, and that's happened. That's happened before, where someone will be a hero on the show, and then they come off, and everyone's trashing them in the exit interviews, or they trash them years later because they weren't a nice person. But I'm okay with that. I'm watching a television show. They're edited characters. I know that I can't watch 24/7 what happened on the island, and I'm fine with that. I'd rather watch a really good. And now I do think the episodes could be longer. I think if we had 1.5-hour, 2-hour episodes, it might be too much for the average person. But for me, I'd be happy to get 2 hours of Survivor every week. And then they would be able to leave more in the show. You'd learn more about the characters. I just think sometimes you lose. Some characters get lost in the background, and I don't even think that's always on the show. Sometimes people are just boring and they're not going to get as much of an edit. Yeah, that's been happening on Big Brother Canada a lot. People have already been complaining, being like, I just know I'm not in the edit. And they're not wrong. They're not wrong. I think people,
I hope that people are usually pretty self-aware to know that if they're not like one of the main characters in the storylines.
I'm sure. I think most people are usually like the hero of their own story, whether it's Survivor or real life. So I think people are. My guess is that more people are surprised. I mean, look, if they play really badly and don't win, they might not. They might not think they're the main character if they like get to episode 3, but they might think they were like the hero until they went out. But there've been plenty of people, second boots, third boots, that are almost erased, and you don't hear from them until their boot episode.
I'm doing an online reality game right now. Ooh. And you had to figure out the survivors. There's just so many survivors from the past where I'm like, I just don't even remember them.
I probably remember them.
Well, yeah, you do. But you're also an encyclopedia of Survivor.
Yeah, it's
like
weird.
I could probably ask you, who's won the most immunity challenges?
Won the most immunity challenge ever, I believe, is Boston Rob.
I don't know. See, look at that. You knew. I just knew you'd know. Okay, we could keep going on though. Drama. I don't know if that's related to entertainment or reality. And I don't even know what the right answer is. I don't know which one's more dramatic. I almost want to say Survivor.
I mean, I think so. I mean, I think living in the elements automatically adds a certain amount of drama. They run out of food. They can't like go into the kitchen and get snacks and like what do they have? Even the slop is probably better than whatever they're eating on Survivor.
It's like oatmeal. It's oatmeal.
Yeah, it's probably yeah. It's boring. Is it going to be fun eating slop every day? No.
Yeah.
But it's probably fine. It's not garbage.
That's what people used to joke about. Is that slop used to be like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
Oh, really?
And so it'd be like the slop of Big Brother was the reward of Survivor.
Yeah, and honestly, like I don't really eat much oatmeal, but I've never like if someone gave me oatmeal, I'd be fine with it. I'd rather have pancakes, but it's whatever. I'd rather have a bagel, obviously.
Oh, I trained. I used to eat oatmeal every single day at work, and they'd make fun of me. But I was like, gotta be ready for if my Big Brother day comes, you know?
Mm-hmm. I sometimes used to eat it at sleepaway camp if like the breakfast was really bad, which a lot of times like I don't eat the eggs at camp. It's like the weird powdered eggs, and there's always oatmeal, so like it's always an option. And you put like cinnamon. Can you put cinnamon and sugar in slop? Are you allowed to make the slop better?
They do a lot of recipes with it, so I believe so. Yeah, they make like slop cookies. I think you can add things to it.
Oh, okay. They got to stop complaining about the slop. They're fine. If there's more drama on Survivor, we figured it out.
Yeah.
Now, I think there might be more drama like off the show, maybe potentially on Big Brother, like in like social media afterwards. But I mean, there's a fair amount on Survivor too, so I don't know.
Yeah. Are there? No, there's not more. I was trying to think if there's more people on Big Brother than Survivor. How many people start on Survivor?
Usually 20 or 18. It used to be 16.
Oh, so there's more. Okay, because I was thinking the more people means more potentially.
Big Brother's 14 usually, right?
This season is.
Okay.
I think it's lower though. I think it used to be 16 though. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm gonna say. Okay, we're gonna move on though. The next thing is I have some hot takes.
Okay.
And you can add your own to this. But okay, we kind of talked about the oh gosh, we're moving along. Okay. We kind of already talked about the first one, but I think people are always, this is more about recruiting. Like when people are recruited, do you think recruited people who are just like really attractive models but don't know what they're doing, do you think that that's bad for the show?
Yeah, I think the Survivor, like early 20s, show that it's bad for the show. I mean, once in a while, if it's a small portion of the cast, if you get like Chris Noble in Ghost Island, who was unbelievable TV, partly because of how bad he was and unknowledgeable about the game, but he was also a really entertaining, like not very self-aware, but entertaining person. I think a lot of times being unself-aware is an entertaining trait. I just don't think you want your whole cast to be that, because you get into that situation, like I was saying before, where if it's a whole cast of these like good-looking model recruits, and it doesn't matter if they're good-looking or not. Like, I mean, if they're just recruits that don't know the show, they're going to get run over by a Kim Stradlin. Like, it's just going to happen. So I do think that I think having maybe like one or two models, but like there's good-looking people who watch the show. Cast those people. So like I don't think it ruins the show unless you have too many of them.
Because I was just wondering what you feel about like when people like flirt in the game. Like, like I think Parv is so famous for that. And I don't know. I think that does add a fun dynamic to the show that maybe, but I think so too. And like, flirt though. You don't have to be really attractive to flirt with people.
Yeah, exactly. And look, Parvati wasn't really that much of a standout her first time. She had like her boot episode when she's like in the hot tub with Yul Nazi. Like that's her most memorable scene. And it wasn't, it was strategic on her part, but it was like the only thing we really saw the only big thing we saw strategically from her, and it didn't even work. I don't know if she studied the game, right? But she really like came out in Fans versus Favorites and played one of the best games of all time. Like she was able to get and a lot of it was Suri as well. Like, and I think Amanda kind of gets overlooked because of how bad she is at Final Tribal Council. That was just a strong group of players who came together and had a great alliance. But she, her strength in that game was having the side relationships with Alexis and with Natalie. I think she was and even like Ozzy and James. Like, I mean, it was more Amanda and Ozzy, but like, she was the one who brought James into that. So I think that she was, maybe she wasn't that big of a fan going into Cook Islands, but she definitely knew the game better than anyone else, except with the exception of maybe Suri going into Fans versus Favorites. And that tribe of fans, like Eric Reichenbach was a fan, but he was so bad at the game. And the rest of the tribe, I think it was mainly recruits. Don't call them fans if they're not fans.
He got an iconic moment though.
Mm-hmm.
Was it worth it? Probably not.
Oh yeah, I think it was. I think it was. Everything that happened in Fans versus Favorites for the most part was worth it. You get the effing stick. You had Eric giving away the immunity necklace. That was a great season. It's like one of these unicorn seasons. It's like a once in a lifetime thing that you're going to get it.
Yeah. I think it might be more of a factor on Big Brother too, because I feel like there's always like the showmance aspect, which showmances like seem to be quite rare in Survivor. Am I wrong?
They happen
like every like 3 seasons you get a showman.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not really a showman. Sometimes it's more of like a flirt mance where they're two people that are clearly like either they're attracted to each other or they're just using flirtation to get farther in the game. And sometimes it's mutual where they're flirting with each other to get farther. There've been, I mean, there's more married couples from Survivor than The Bachelor. So I guess
they say the same thing about Big Brother. But how many met on the show though? Only
met on the show.
Rob and Amber.
Rob and Amber. They didn't really meet on the show, but they were on the show together. I mean, a lot of these marriages, like, oh yeah, Eric and Jamie from China they're still married. But then a lot of these couples that we've had, like Alex Bell and Kim Powers, were different seasons. They just met after the show. So yeah, there aren't so many showmances, but they happen. It's not that surprising when you see one on Survivor.
I would imagine it'd be pretty hard to feel like your most attractive self on the island. But just so many things you have to go through together. I feel like you guys create really strong bonds, but maybe not romantic ones.
That's possible. Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, the next one. Do you think that twists and advantages improve the show?
I think sometimes they do, and I think sometimes they're used too much to the detriment of the show. I am not one of these people who's like anti-hidden immunity idol. I think it adds a fun element to a game. I think it adds strategy to a game because you have to plan around it. If you think someone that you're trying to vote out has it, I think when you get into a situation where like half the show is the idol hunt and then finding the idol and then playing the idol, you lose the human element of the game where it's not about social bonds and strategy. It's just about this item that was hidden on the beach. So I think it's good when, maybe you hide like one in the pre-merge for each tribe. And then if there, maybe at the merge you hide one, especially if there's like no more idols in play, like, I had one at the merge. It's fun. It's like, it makes the show more interesting, I think, but don't have your show solely focused on the idol, and don't get to a situation at the final 6 where everyone except for one person, and who happened to be the best person, Suri, is immune. Like, it's crazy that final 6 vote, which should be a vital vote, the person who got no votes ends up going home because of all these advantages. I think there's ways to fix it. First of all, having fewer advantages, having maybe expiring advantages. So I do think that they can help. I think the tribe swap is a twist. I think the tribe swap is great for Survivor. I think it mixes up the dynamics. I think it keeps people on their toes because when they go to a new tribe, they have to readjust. Some people get screwed because of it, but that's the game. I'm fine with that. But again, there's no need to do more than one tribe swap. I mean, it muddies the waters, and it could put someone. It could screw someone twice, essentially, because you could get into a bad swap situation the first time, and maybe you work your way out of it. But then you swap again before the merge, and sometimes it's for one vote, which I also think is ridiculous. Why are you swapping for one vote? It's too much. Keep it to a minimum. Don't make them too powerful. Don't make them take over the episode editing-wise, and then I think they're good.
Well, when they're only for one episode, I would think that might be production interference. Production deciding that they need to mix it up somehow, and that's just why they do those really short twists, right?
Allegedly, all the swaps are decided before the game. I don't know if that's actually true.
But don't they pick a buff?
Well, no, I mean, like, when they do the swap. Like, they say we're going to do a swap when there's 15 people, and then we're going to do a swap when there's 13 people, and then they merge at 12. Like, supposedly that's all decided before the game. I don't know if they mess with that. I think sometimes with medevacs, the numbers get changed a little bit, or quits. So I don't really know how much. I hope it's all decided beforehand. I hate to think that production is like doing a swap because one of their favorites is in a bad spot. But it could happen. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to find out that it has happened.
Maybe I should be on production. I want to save all my faves. I don't care how.
Yeah, to all the interesting people. I mean, I guess if it's the interesting people, it's fine.
Put Ream Daily back in. Yes, that's why we love Edge of Extinction. We get Ream Dailies.
Yeah, well, that's true. Look, there were some good things about the Edge of Extinction. I think if they ended it at the merge, it would have been fine. But having a guy who played 6 days of I think he played I think he played 12 days of Survivor. He shouldn't have won. It's crazy that he won.
If he didn't win, though, we would not get his socks. Isn't that what he's trying to sell?
Oh yeah, like with his great promotion video. I'm over him. But I mean, my Chris Underwood winning take. It's not really an anti-Chris Underwood take. It's an anti-person who didn't really play the game. Even though when he came back, look, I don't blame him. He did exactly what he had to do. He played a fantastic last 6 days of Survivor. The problem is that he barely played the rest of the game. I kind of think if Rick Devens, who came in at the merge, he only missed 2 tribals. If he came back and won, I would have been like, sure, that's fine. He played most of the game. He missed 2 tribals that weren't all that important. And yes, he got voted out. There would have been it would have been a little bit tainted. He wouldn't have been near the top of my winner rankings, but I would have been okay with it. I would have respected it. Chris Underwood, I almost put an asterisk next to his win. He won the $1 million. By the rules of the show, he won, yes. But I can't rank him better than last in terms of my winners because of the fact that he didn't play a full game of Survivor.
Yeah, which I think, to defend him, I think that there were quite a few people that they made the end would have beat him easily. I think he went to the end with the correct people.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Rick would have beat him. I've heard Victoria potentially would have beat him. I mean, look, Victoria, to me, Rick is the character standout on that season in terms of he got a huge edit, and I've always been a Rick Devens fan. I think that he is a fantastic character on the show. I think that Victoria is by far the best player on that show. I would love to see her play again, and I think she was the one who got screwed more than anybody else.
Because she got screwed by Chris Underwood coming back, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's like the jury says Victoria will win.
Yeah, I think that my winner pick if Chris Underwood doesn't come back, it's potentially Rick, because I don't know if there would have been an opportunity to vote him out, or I don't know if he would have, it comes down to the stupid fire making challenge, which I also don't like. But if he doesn't get to the end and Victoria does, I think Victoria wins against anybody, and I think Victoria would have gotten to the end.
So what should we have instead of fire making?
What we used to have, a vote. It's Survivor vote.
Just a vote.
Yeah, have an immunity, have a vote. And by the way, let's go back to the final 2. I'm not so super anti-final 3. I think it's fine, but I always thought the final 2 was more interesting. I think one of my favorite decisions in the game that somebody has to make was the final 3 immunity winner, who has to choose who he or she are sitting next to at the end. And we lose that with the final 3. Mm-hmm. And there's always one person, almost always someone in the final 3 who has no shot. It doesn't really add any suspense.
Yeah. There was a final 3. Rob Cisternino would be a Survivor winner, probably. That's
true. But then we probably have no Rob as a podcast, and that would be sad.
You don't think so? You don't think it'll be Rob has a podcast with just a winner's bump in production quality?
Maybe. So yeah, it would have been Rob as a podcast, but he would have hired me.
He wouldn't have hired you?
Yeah, he would have found some other guy to do trivia with.
I wonder. Okay, if Rob, let's do a scenario here. If Rob Cisternino wins the money,
yeah,
does the quality of the podcast go up or down? Because I'm almost thinking it goes down, because it's like, why does he have to put effort into it?
I think that if he decided to do the podcast, I think it's a great podcast. And if he had been a Survivor winner, it would have been just as good. I just think, who knows? The whole trajectory of his life may have changed. There may have been Rob as a podcast, but who knows?
There may have been a third Cisternino, little third baby.
Yeah, who knows? You never know. Like everything could have been changed. Who knows if he starts a podcast? I mean, there's a good chance he does because clearly he loves doing it and he loves talking about the show. And I think if RHAP does exist in a universe where Rob has won Survivor, I think it's just as good. I don't think it's a worse podcast because he won. I just think it's less likely that it exists because something changes the whole thing. Have you ever seen a time travel movie? Everything changes. You have Biff. Biff is running the town.
I think his life would be the exact same.
Maybe. Except he'd have $1 million.
Yeah.
Maybe. And Probst couldn't call him the best player to never win.
Oh. That would suck.
I think Rob would be pretty high up on my winner rankings if he was a winner.
Yeah. He would have been at Winners of War. Oh, he could have been a 2-time
for sure.
winner.
He could have been a 2-time winner.
Wow, he could have had 2 million. Imagine the podcast with
3 million. 3 million because Winners of War was a
Gosh. Okay.
He would have done just as badly in All Stars because All Stars they were targeting the winners. The reason they targeted him is because like he did the best. He was the closest thing to being a winner on the Shapiro tribe. So I think he gets targeted either way if he's on Boston Rob's tribe. So I think All Stars goes about the same for him as it did. But he probably plays Winners at War, and who knows? Tony won like that. No one thought that was going to happen. I was so happy, but like if Tony could win Survivor twice, I think Rob could win Survivor once.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. We'll put him on the Jordan Kalish season. It will be 17 Jordan Kalishes and a Rob.
Yeah. Who do you think wins, the Rob or one of the Jordan Kalishes? Statistically, I think I got it. I'd make an alliance. I'd make an alliance. If your name is Jordan, but how does the voting work for that season? That would be confusing.
Well, you guys all have numbers, obviously.
Okay, sure.
Or it could be Jordan Kalish, Coach K.
Dees, Coach K, D Schoolish, King of Johns, Seeds Baby.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, we can go back to our PowerPoint, though. We've been a little bit off track.
Bitter juries are not real.
Yeah.
Bitter juries are absolutely real, but I don't think they take away from the game. I think that the jury, if you're voting people out in a way that they don't like, they have a right not to vote for you. So I think that bitter juries are real, but I don't really have a problem with it.
Why is that bitter?
Because maybe you think that the other person played the best game, but you're just deciding not to vote for them. I mean, I honestly think that people, if I were a juror on one of these games, I would hope that I'd vote for the person that I thought played the best game. But if I hated that person, that's their fault, and I wouldn't vote for them. If it's someone I could tolerate and I think they played the best, I would vote for them. But that's why you're casting, you're casting different people for these shows. Not everyone's a game bot. So I think that bitter juries are a thing. People get bitter. It's like part of being a person, and it definitely factors into the vote.
But you had said last slide that you said the social game and strategic game were basically very interconnected.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you have a bad social relationship with someone, is that also not a bad strategic move to not have fixed that relationship before that person left the game?
Yeah. And I think people do. I think jury management, while it is, again, it's social, but it's also you're doing it strategically. You might, Yule is a perfect example in Survivor Cook Islands when he won. Like he said like to Adam and Candace, I'll vote out Penner before you, and that he secured those 2 votes. And guess what? He won by 1 vote. So I do think that jury management, while it is a social skill, it's also a strategic thing that you have to do in the game, which is another example of them being interconnected.
Yeah. Which I think I'd be bad on the shows. I don't think I'd be very good at jury management. That's okay.
Yeah, well, it's all right.
I'll just tell them not to be bitter. See, that's what you have to do. I feel like
be
people with bad
no one's ever tried that. No one's ever tried. I bet that would go over great at the final tribal council. Don't be bitter.
Well, that's what happened, I think, on Big Brother is on BB20, people were very upset. Production, you could tell, was very upset that Tyler did not win the game because they felt like Tyler deserved to win. Even though Tyler had a pretty mediocre social game at the end, while Casey's was much stronger, and he lost because people were bitter, even though he had like a stronger strategic game throughout the whole game. So then the next season comes, and you could tell that there was definitely a persona of like, our season's not going to be that way. Like whoever wins is going to be the person that like deserves to win, and like they're not going to be a bitter jury. Like they kept like emphasizing that all the time.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
and then we get someone like Jackson Mickey that wins. So that's what happens when you have a not bitter jury. You don't like your winner sometimes.
Yeah, that's what happens. I think that, look, I typically root for the person who I feel is the best player. And a lot of times that person wins. A lot of times I'm disappointed in the jury's decision. There have been plenty of seasons of Survivor where I wish the jury went the other way. Not too many. I really think the jury gets, and again, but I think it's totally their right to vote for whoever they want. That's the game, and it's another obstacle that you have to maneuver around.
Yeah. Okay, I think those are all of my hot takes, unless you wanted to add any.
I think that's good hot takes. I mean, I think that I think I said some of mine in the middle, but I really don't think my hot takes are hot takes. I think that the people don't want to see returning. Okay, the only time that I really loved somebody coming back into the game was Outcasts. I don't love from a pure game rules perspective, I don't love the fact that the players didn't know that somebody would be coming back into the game. But from a TV perspective, that would have ruined the whole thing. It was such a cool surprise to see the Outcast tribe come back and like Skinny Ryan with his die jerks buff on. You lose the element of surprise there. But again, it ended at the merge. Lil and Burton came back. They were two of the more interesting characters like post-merge. So it worked out. I think I'm really not super against someone coming back as long as it's not deep into the game.
Yeah, because battle backs are very common in Big Brother.
Yeah.
Like, especially in, like, the pre-jury phase. Usually, like, all the pre-jurors will battle back.
Yeah, and they know they're going to happen, right? And they don't come back. They come back when there's, like, a lot of people still left, right?
I don't think the people in the house know, but because it happens so often, there's always speculation.
Yeah. I feel like in Big Brother, it almost becomes like a tribe swap on Survivor. You expect it to happen, even if you don't know when or if it's going to happen. But if all of a sudden
merge happens, you're like, oh, I guess we didn't have one this season.
Yeah. But if you had to say, like, right now, I could have either never again somebody comes back into the game or somebody might come back into the game, I would just say right now, I don't want to see someone come back in once they've been voted out.
Oh, so you'd rather not have people come back?
I'd rather not.
What if it was your fan? What if it's a fan favorite?
I don't care.
I don't care.
If they're a fan favorite, they'll play another season.
Maybe. How often do people really get a chance to return?
There've been a lot of people come back. I mean, if they're that good, unless they don't want to play, they'll be asked back.
Has anyone played 5 times?
Well, Boston Rob's been on 5 seasons. He's played 4 times. Okay. I mean, I don't count it as one of their seasons, but they were on the show. I mean, like, you saw them. You got to see them again.
They counted it in their days countdown, though.
It shouldn't. Who counted it in their days countdown?
They did. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, they did?
I was kind of annoyed by it. I was like, really? You're going to count your luxury condominium out there?
Especially when, like, they don't need to pad their numbers. They have a lot of days on the show.
They want to be the best. But, okay, now I think we're going to end this. We'll go back to Big Brother a bit. We've been very Survivor. We're going to do 2 truths and a lie from Big Brother Canada. I just have 2 slides for you.
Okay. And I will say, like, I like some of the names of the people I'll recognize, and I have been following it through my friends that tweet about
then you'll probably
Big Brother.
Know the answer.
But we'll see. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see how well I've been paying attention. I don't like have a encyclopedic memory for this kind of Big Brother stuff on Twitter. Like it goes one ear and out the other. Okay. And like, because I spend so much time reading like the Survivor Guatemala Wikipedia page. So.
Okay.
I retain that information. Canada selected Tina and Kiefer as team captains to start the season. That I know is true. Rohan has been on slop for 3 weeks. I don't know. Victoria said, a queen cannot play games with a bunch of commoners. I know people seem to really love Victoria. That seems like a quote that a fan favorite would say. I'm going to say the Rohan thing is false.
It's true. He's been on slot for 3 weeks, and he would have continued to be on it, but I believe he just got a slot pass from Canada.
So Victoria didn't say that?
Julie said it when she got evicted.
Who's Julie? Oh, Julie. Okay, she was the first one out, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm wrong. I lost.
But it was a good one.
It was a good one.
Victoria, it does seem like something Victoria would say, though. She is very.
I like her. I've seen some of her confessionals, like in videos. Like she seems like really good casting.
Yeah, and what makes Victoria to me really special is that she's really owning the villain role. I think because I think there's a lot of people that don't, and it makes them come across as unlikable to me.
Okay, well, I've seen another Victoria recently on reality TV who was also trying to be a villain, but on The Bachelorette, and she was on The Bachelor, and she was just extremely unlikable. So
no, I think Victoria. Well, there's some people don't like Victoria. I personally am a Victoria fan.
No, I like Victoria on The Bachelor from what I've seen. Sorry, on Big Brother from what I've seen. I was not a fan of Queen Victoria on the Bachelor. I think she was trying too hard to be a good character, and she was not all that great.
Yeah, I saw a nice comparison to Victoria on I forget who on Twitter I was listening to, and she was kind of comparing Victoria to Nicole Frenzel because Nicole Frenzel does a lot of those. She does do a lot of kind of villain things, but the thing is she's a villain acting like a victim is how she phrased it. And I thought that was interesting when Victoria is a villain acting like a villain. Okay. And I think it's a lot more.
I'll say this: I'm not a Nicole Frenzel fan either from The Amazing Race, and that was the only season of The Amazing Race I watched because of like Eliza and Corinne and Brett and Chris, and just those four, not the other two survivors that were on. I don't really care.
Rupert?
Yeah, it's fine.
He rode an elephant.
He's fine. And Laura's boring. But anyway, I think that I didn't like Nicole Frenzel on The Amazing Race. And I wasn't a fan of her boyfriend, husband. I don't remember exactly what the relationship was.
And then married like last week.
Congratulations. Oh yeah, and then wasn't she inviting people to the wedding in the Big Brother house or something? And she didn't invite Janelle, and that was a whole.
Well, Janelle was invited.
Yeah, she said she wasn't going to come. Yeah, okay. So I like Janelle. I actually didn't love Janelle on The Amazing Race either, but I did like her on Big Brother. In the part of BB 22 that I watched, yeah, that was the All Stars one, right? And I didn't like Frenzel on that season either. So I'm definitely more of a fan of Victoria just from the little that I've seen than Nicole Frenzel.
So many hot takes from you.
Are these hot takes?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Okay, the next one and last one.
There are two major alliances, the Oddballs and the Sunrisers. Tina's grandmother is a famous Canadian singer. Josh said, if you want best friends, I don't know, go to daycare. Okay, I'm going to metagame this one. The quote was the lie last time, so I don't think it's going to be the lie this time. Tina's grandmother is a famous Canadian singer. I recently watched a show called The Bridge, where one of the characters' mother was a famous British talk show host. So that could be true. There are two major alliances, the Oddballs and the Sunrisers. I feel like the Sunrisers I've heard. The Oddballs I don't know. I'm going to say the lie is Tina's grandmother's a famous Canadian singer.
Nope.
Which one was it?
The two major alliances are the Oddballs and the Sunsetters.
Oh, come on. That's a trick question. I don't like that. That's a poorly worded question.
That's a perfectly worded question.
Why are they called the Sunsetters?
Because they're setting the sun on people's games, putting the lights out.
I think I'm more of a fan of the Oddballs just from the name. I don't know
the
who's
Oddballs aren't doing so hot though.
Who's Victoria? Which one's Victoria in?
She was in the Oddballs, but the Oddballs are kind of no more. They don't really like Victoria, and this week.
Well, then how are they a major? How's it a major alliance if they're no more? How major could it have been?
Oh, so it should have been there were two major alliances. Still the air.
I still picked the wrong. Still the
lie.
So who's Tina's grandmother?
She's a famous Canadian singer.
How famous? What's her name?
I looked her up on Spotify and I've never heard of her. It's like Morrissey.
She's not famous.
Canada though.
Okay, but if she were like Adele is Canadian, right? And we know she's famous. We know who she is.
Did you just say Adele is Canadian?
Is she not Canadian? What is Adele? Is Adele not Canadian?
Hello,
who's Canadian?
She's British.
Oh, okay.
So
Avril Lavigne, Canadian. Okay, right?
Well, I don't know about Avril Lavigne. I know Drake is from Canada.
Yes, Drake's also Jewish.
Celine Dion, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know about Avril Lavigne. I'm gonna go with
Avril Lavigne is Canadian. I did know that, and she's famous. Like she's a real famous Canadian singer, and so is Celine Dion. Tina's grandmother is not famous. You heard it here first.
So you say that's okay. So maybe there was two lies and a truth here.
I think I'm going to say that I am correct. I got half a point between these two questions.
Half a point. Oh, okay.
The sunrisers for the sunsetters.
Jordan Kalish Survivor trivia?
Yes. This is Kalish math at work. I'm sure Tina's grandmother is a great singer and very famous.
Oh, I'm sure
she's winning Grammys. Yeah,
you're doing a lot to her image right now. You're really saying that you're like, no, she's not famous. She's irrelevant. You're just roasting Tina's grandma. What did she do to you?
Nothing. She just didn't sing enough famous songs for my liking. What does she sing? What's her top song? You should play it as the outro to this podcast. Is that allowed?
I think her top song is Tina is my granddaughter.
Tina is my granddaughter, and she's on Big Brother, and she's Canadian, and she is in the Sunrisers?
Yeah.
Sunrisers.
Sunsetters.
Oh, Sunsetters. Okay, yeah, that's the song.
Okay, well, on that note, everyone, I believe that ends our podcast. Jordan Kalish, do you have any social medias or anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Jordan Kalish. This is a Big Brother podcast, so I'm sure my Big Brother takes were not up to snuff. But if I talk more about Survivor, I'm sure I'll be tweeting a lot about the Yankees soon. So I think I'm losing followers by plugging my Twitter right now, as opposed to gaining them. I'm on Instagram. Don't really post on there that much. I post my dogs on there and my food's on there sometimes, but it's also at Jordan Kalish on Instagram. I have Facebook. Don't friend me on Facebook if you don't know me, but I mean, I guess you can. I probably won't accept it. And I am doing on this Friday on the 26th. I am doing a trivia game with Sari Field, Survivor legend, who I did mention earlier in this podcast, one of the best survivors of all time. And she's going to be doing a trivia and Q&A with myself and my friend George, who, if you've listened to my podcast on RHAP Twitch Ultimate Trivia, you know about George. So we are hosting a Survivor trivia and Q&A night on Friday, March 26th, 8 p.m. If you want to play, you could Venmo $20 to @George-Nicolaidis. The information is all on my Twitter. Check it out. It's going to be a fun night. Sari's going to be answering all your questions, and the winner gets money. Winner gets money, and also first 5 places get autographs. Merch, baby.
Merch, baby, merch. Okay. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.